It's so good to be with you. I flew in yesterday from California. Any Californians? Nice. Awesome. Have you been to the Reagan Ranch? Beautiful. And I hear there's some Irish here. Where are the Irish? Wonderful. You guys are such an example. Your fight for life in Ireland. Thank you. You have inspired me for the last 15 years. So thank you. And keep it up. We need you. We need you. Okay, and then are there any Virginia or Washington, D.C. based students here? All right, props. Thanks for having me in your home. Thanks for having me here. I'm really excited about this morning because this is, I believe, the greatest cause of our day. The cause and the fight for life, the fight for the first human right, which is life. And I am privileged to get to lead live action. And I've got a great team back here. Allison and Devin, I think, is somewhere in the back. And we get to lead the largest following online for the pro-life movement. So that's millions of people. And there are millions of people in our country who are pro-life. In fact, more people identify as pro-life than pro-choice in America today, according to Gallup. So And you know what? Okay, who watched the Democratic debate last night or the night before? All right, I'm sorry you sat through that. I was on the plane and I was like bouncing the live stream, but I was watching it. And of course, they eventually talk about abortion. They hardly talked about it in the night before, which was really disappointing. But as you probably noticed, every single Democratic candidate running for president of the United States is not only out of touch with the vast majority of Americans on abortion, but they are right in line with the most extreme position you could possibly have. Abortion up until birth for any reason funded by the taxpayer. That's what we're up against. That's the political situation in our country today. That is the position of every single candidate on that stage. I'm like, come on, Yang Gang. Why? Why? And he sat down with Dave Rubin. Did anybody see that? Dave Rubin interviewed Andrew Yang, and I was like, you seem a little bit open-minded. Can't you just be a little bit, teeny bit open-minded on abortion? And no, I go to his website and it's the same as every other candidate. Or Tulsi Gabbard, I'm like, come on. You seem a little bit open-minded. You seem like you're willing to buck the Democratic orthodoxy. But no, abortion on demand for any reason. So this is a serious thing. This is not just another issue amongst the tons of other political issues that we care about. And we should care. We should care. As conservatives, our country, the very fiber of who we are as Americans, what it means to be American, the values that we hold dear, a lot of these things are under attack. That is the reality today. But the reason I've dedicated my life to the pro-life cause specifically, when there are a lot of other causes and a lot of other issues, is because of this fact, that if we don't have the right to life, if we don't have the right to live, if we don't make it to be born, if we don't get that gift of our first birthday, then all those other rights, all those other constitutional rights that we've been promised, that we're privileged with, that our country was founded on, none of them matter. None of them matter. None of them can be enjoyed. And it's not just the right to life for us and that fight that we're fighting from the moment of our beginning, from the moment of our conception, our fertilization, but it's the fact that the children, the little ones, the babies, the least of these, the most vulnerable, those are the ones that are the most in danger. And one more thing on the Democrats, and then I'll stop being so partisan. The Democrats are always talking about the little guy. Have you noticed that? It's always about the poor and those in lower socioeconomic classes and the minority and those that are disenfranchised and those that are in need of help. I mean, have you noticed that? Right? It's all about like, we care. You've heard the phrase, the bleeding heart liberal, we care. Well, it's like, okay, let's care. I agree, by the way. I agree with caring. Absolutely. I'm a Christian. I care for the least of these. It's what Jesus Christ asks of us, that we see and love the least of these as if we're loving him himself. He says, whatever you do for the least of these, you do it for me. And whatever you don't do for the least of these, you don't do it for me. He's very strong in his words about how we're to treat those that are the most vulnerable. But how can we see the most vulnerable, not just as this inconvenience, a child as an inconvenience, but see them as somebody that we, the strong person, the adult in the room, the grown-up, the one who is alive, has the right to kill. How twisted and how perverted, how distorted. And that's why I've given my life to this cause, and the team I'm working with, and many of you, raise your hand if you're involved in any pro-life work on campus. Can we just clap for you guys? Thank you. Thank you. And hey, everybody else, you can join the pro-life club. And YAF is very pro-life, so that's kind of like being in a pro-life club. I'll give YAF that. Thank you, YAF. You're very, very pro-life. But what I want to do this morning is I want to first share the pro-life case, point blank, why this is the case for life, why it is the truth, why it is, I believe, the most compelling case for human rights in our country today, and why we should all be equipped to make it. Then I want to share about empowerment versus real empowerment versus false empowerment, because these words about freedom, empowerment are thrown around, right? Reproductive choice, justice, reproductive freedom. You heard in the Democratic debate the last time Julian Castro saying, we don't just need reproductive freedom, we need reproductive justice. You probably, do you remember, guys? You remember that? I was like, wow, what does that even mean? I mean, when you're pregnant, reproduction has already taken place. You are already pregnant, there's already a child, reproduction has already taken place. Abortion is not a parenting decision that you then get to make. Abortion is a life or death decision that no parent gets to make because there's a human life involved. But I want to talk about this idea of true empowerment versus false empowerment, and then leave you guys with some, I hope, tools or tips for how we can all be a part of this great cause for life and what we can all do together. Because this is not just a cause for the pro-life clubs on campus or for myself or for the Irish activists or for the folks who are in it. This is a cause for all of us, every conservative. This is a fundamental plank of what it means, I think, to be American. And so it's up to all of us to do something about it. So I want to start. I was actually at UCLA giving a similar presentation about why abortion is wrong, why abortion is not just morally wrong, but why it's indefensible, why you can't defend abortion. And I want to present you guys, and this is, I think, the fundamental nutshell case for the pro-life movement. So this is a piece of what we call pro-life apologetics. And I think it's so important that we're all equipped to share this, because we're going to have conversations. We're going to have conversations with other folks on campus. We're going to have conversations with friends, with family. We're going to have conversations on social media. And we need to be prepared to present a compelling pro-life case. The compassion, the justice, these things are on our side. We need to be prepared to present it. So I'm going to present you a very simple, logical syllogism. First of all, and I hope you all agree with this first statement, it is wrong, it is always wrong to intentionally take an innocent life. Do we agree? All right. Good. It's always wrong to intentionally take an innocent human life. Okay, the second one is the one that gets controversial for some people, which I don't think it should be, and I'll explain in a moment. Abortion intentionally takes an innocent human life. Abortion intentionally, we know that. Abortion intentionally takes an innocent human life, and then the conclusion of these two premises in this logical syllogism is therefore abortion is always wrong. If it is always wrong to intentionally take an innocent human life, and abortion intentionally takes an innocent human life, then it's always wrong. Abortion is always wrong. So what's the controversial? None of that should be controversial, by the way. But in our country today, because of lies, because of agendas, because of a very dark history of eugenics in our country. So Margaret Sanger, who founded Planned Parenthood, which became the biggest abortion advocacy group in our country, and is now the biggest abortion chain in our country, they kill 900 children every single day. Every single one with a beating heart. Up until 24 weeks, 6 months, when the baby, some of them are old enough to survive outside the womb. That's a third of abortions in this country. And they're advocating every day for the right to kill babies that are full term, babies for the sake of sex selection. If the mother says, I just want a boy, I don't want a girl, and sadly this happens not just in India and China, but it happens all over the world and in our country, then it should be totally legal and acceptable. And by the way, Planned Parenthood advocates for the right of the abortion industry to not be regulated. It's kind of funny that the left is very pro-regulation, right? They want to regulate businesses basically to death. I mean, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders are basically waging a war on corporate America. Let's regulate them to death. They're just destroying America. But the abortion industry, if you're in the abortion business, we're not going to even look at your paperwork. You are allowed to have your facility however you want it, and that's how we get things like Kermit Gosnell. Does anybody remember Kermit Gosnell? He was the late-term abortionist in Philadelphia that was running a chop shop with blood on the walls and baby parts in the refrigerator of his abortion facility. Horrific. Killing women, giving out antibiotics with zero training, butchering women in the process, and killing born-alive infants. Really heartbreaking. If you read the grand jury trial, after 17 years, they didn't even touch his clinic. We investigate tanning salons and dental clinics and tattoo parlors far more than we investigate or regulate the abortion industry in America. And after 17 years, they finally investigated. They did a raid after getting a ton of tips, women dying there, and they discovered that he was committing infanticide. And to this day, he's the only US abortionist in recent history that has been convicted for murder. But it was only because of the murders of the babies that had just barely left their mother's body. So they had just been born, and then he killed them. He massacred them. I mean, it's really horrific if you read about the grand jury trial, their report and what happened to these babies, but that was what they got him for. That's what they got him for. If he had killed that infant seconds earlier, when he or she, that little boy or girl, was in his or her mother's body, then it would have been totally fine, totally legal, no problem. Mr. Gosnell, you are Dr. Gosnell, and you deserve all the respect of the medical profession. You are practicing as a doctor to help in women's health care. But because he killed those children, and they could document it, because they could see that the babies had taken their first breath after they did autopsies, because they documented that these babies had died after they had been born. They had been slaughtered after birth. All of a sudden, Dr. Gosnell, this women's rights advocate and health practitioner, was now a convicted serial killer, a murderer. So Planned Parenthood is behind the lack of regulation, the complete lawlessness of the abortion industry and lobby in our country today. This is a plan and a plot, and they have worked hard. They have worked so hard, and they have a lot of friends in media. They have a lot of friends in politics. They have a lot of friends at universities. I don't know about you. I went to UCLA. My school, the students, were pretty open-minded on abortion, a lot of them. There was a small vocal pro-abortion crowd, that was very hostile. Then there were a lot of pro-life students, and then there were students who were kind of like, maybe I'm personally pro-life. They were open. They were at least open to having the conversation. But the faculty was hardcore pro-abortion. Have you noticed that at your schools? Is your faculty, I don't know, we might have some Christian schools here, conservative schools, but if you're at a more mainstream school or a public university, often the faculty and the administration is very hardcore pro-abortion. And entertainment media is very pro-abortion today. The whole Democratic Party, very pro-abortion. And so lies have been told. How is it that abortion intentionally takes an innocent human life? That has been so not only misunderstood, but completely disagreed with by so many people. They think abortion is actually a positive thing. It's because of years and years and years of misinformation, of really marketing lies to cover up what abortion actually is, and instead to call it something positive. That takes work. So in a way, I respect the incredible work that, even though more Americans are pro-life than pro-choice today, that there are so many pro-choice Americans, or they think that they're pro-choice, because it takes work to take something so ugly and so painful and so dark that doesn't empower a woman, that turns a woman against her own flesh and blood, that hurts women, hurts families, to take something so dark and turn it into something so positive. So how do we know that abortion takes an innocent human life? Let's walk through it really briefly. First of all, is that human in the womb, is that thing in the womb, the fetus or the embryo or the zygote or the blastocyst, whatever stage of development you want to name that child at, that thing at, is that it, a human? Well, first of all, we pretty much know for a fact they are of human species, right? I don't know about you, but I've never heard of a human father and a human mother creating a non-human species. Have you? I mean, I don't know what schools you go to and what they teach in your biology classes, but at least the biology class I took in high school, you have human parents and you get human children, correct? We all agree? Okay. Let me read something to you guys from Peter Singer. Has anyone heard of Peter Singer? All right, Princeton University. Oh, a lot of people have. So Peter Singer, who's Peter Singer? He's an ethicist. You got it. You know what you're talking about over here. He is an ethicist who is pro-infanticide. I don't call that an ethicist, I call that a crazy person. But anyways, he's pro-infanticide. So he's this very smart, works at Princeton, is a philosopher, an ethicist. He's pro-choice. He's so pro-choice, he thinks infanticide is okay, which, by the way, a lot of Democratic politicians are effectively supporting infanticide. You may have seen the governor of Virginia say we should make the baby comfortable. Yes, boo, disgusting. So this is not, unfortunately, as crazy as Peter Singer should be, because more and more people, you accept abortion, you accept killing the baby before birth. What's the difference? 8 inches of birth canal. Why give the baby rights after birth? That's the question mark. Now people are even beginning to debate. It's disgusting. But anyways, Peter Singer says, this is really important. This guy is basically saying what all the embryologists, what all the human biologists have said for years. You open any human biology textbook and you're going to get this, what he's about to say. He says, there is no doubt from the first moments of its existence, an embryo conceived from human sperm and eggs is in fact a human being. He's basically saying there is no doubt that it in the womb is a human being. We know it's a human being. Human parents, individual, unique, just needs time and nourishment to grow. And yes, does he or she, as a single cell zygote, look different than you or me today? Yes, right? I mean, let's acknowledge that. We look different at different stages of development. I mean, a newborn baby has a head almost as big as his or her body. Think about it. I mean, you looked pretty adorably funny when you were a newborn, but you're just as much human. I'm very proud to say and happy that I'm pregnant right now, 19 weeks pregnant. Thank you. Thanks. You're all invited to my baby shower in California. I'm also married. That did happen first. Married and pregnant. I have a great husband. Thank you. But my baby at 19 weeks doesn't suddenly become a baby when abortion is illegal on that baby in my state. My baby at 19 weeks is just as much a human being as he or she was at the moment of their fertilization, the moment they became that single cell zygote that was unique in individual human life, complete DNA code. And they were just as much a human being a few weeks later when their little heart started beating at 3.5 weeks. And they were just as much a human being a few weeks after that when their first brain waves started to fire. They were just as much a human being at every single moment of their existence. And I will fight for this child's right to live just like every other child's right to live. And we will fight together. I feel good fighting with you guys, fighting together. It is clear, it is crystal clear that abortion takes the life of an innocent human being. And it is crystal clear that we cannot accept it, that we have to reject it. And that's why I am so excited about transforming our country, our culture, the minds of our peers, of millennials and Gen Z on this issue by simply telling them the truth. Simply telling them the truth and being willing to engage respectfully. I told you I wanted to talk about true and false empowerment. What I want to say about this is very important because there is a lie today that women are benefited by abortion. You've probably heard this, right? That's the whole pro-choice argument. The whole pro-choice argument is that women need abortion to be empowered because our bodies should not have to be taken hostage by this new life. What we forget is that everybody begins their life this way. Everybody begins their life in someone, needs to have a mother or a father. Everybody begins their life fragile and weak and vulnerable, that this is natural. And that when a woman becomes pregnant, there's not just her body involved, but there's another body involved. And that's not a bad thing. I think it's essential that as part of our pro-life fight, that we also fight for mothers, and that we fight for fathers, and that we say that to kill a child is not empowerment, but instead to love, and to not just say to a mother, to love your child is empowerment, but to come alongside her and to say, I will help you love, I will help you care, I will help you in what you are doing, that is true lifting up of one another. That's what is at the heart of the pro-life movement, is service and love for each other. True empowerment is never found on stepping on the bodies of others to get higher, to go higher. That's not true empowerment. Our country was founded on service. Think about it. The reason we have the empowerment of today, which you could say the opportunities, the possibilities, the prosperity of today, we are at universities, or we can graduate, we can get jobs, we can run for office, we can start a business. All of these amazing freedoms and liberties that we have the freedom to speak, the freedom to worship, the freedom to assembly. The reason we have these amazing blessings is because somebody served, right? Because somebody served, and some people even died for these liberties. Service is a blessing. And it's at the core of what it means to be American. And it's at the core of what it means to be human. Being a parent, being a mother, being a father. I would even say that as people, we don't fully mature until we live out some kind of motherhood or fatherhood. What I mean by that is not necessarily biological, because not all of us in this room are going to get married. Not all of us are called to get married. Some of us we may marry and not be able to have children or conceive naturally. But we're all called to some kind of motherhood or fatherhood, some kind of self-gift, some kind of mentorship, some kind of spiritual coming alongside someone to help them grow as we were once helped to grow. That's us passing on the gift of the service that we were given by whether it was our parents, or maybe our parents, it wasn't so good. Maybe our parents were amazing, maybe it wasn't so good, but somebody came alongside us and helped us grow. And that's our true sign of maturity. Do we then serve? Do we then turn around to lift others up? False empowerment dehumanizes the other. It says you don't matter. It steps on the bodies of others to get better, to go higher. True empowerment says, I have been served, I have been loved, I have been blessed. And so I want to turn around and do that in response, even if it means sacrifice. Even if it means having to give up some maybe opportunities, or having to struggle or work hard, even if it means having to sacrifice. It's worth it. That's at the heart of not just what it means to be American, but what it means, I think, to be human and to be fully alive as a human. This is why rights are not just important, but responsibilities are important. They teach us to become mature, to be ennobled, to have nobility. They teach us what love is. And love, what is life without love? What is life without loving others and experiencing love in return? I want to finish with 3 things that I think we can all do, tools and I guess you could say admonishments for all of us in this fight for life. And then I'd love to hear questions, if you've got them. Number 1, we all need to be 100% pro-life, no exceptions, and be proud of it. This is no time in a country where you have an entire political party vying for the most powerful seat, not only in our nation, but in the world, who wants not only abortion through all 9 months, but potentially to let the infant die, if it's the mother's choice, after birth, as Governor Northam has said. When we're dealing with the extremism, with the complete reckless disregard for human life, our 100% pro-life position is essential. It's essential that we say no exceptions. It is always wrong to intentionally take the life of an innocent human being. And our medical system can care for both. We know that because in Ireland, they cared for both for dozens of years until activists from across the world came in and tried to rip pro-life from the Irish Constitution. which was, I know, a dark day that you guys just endured, but keep fighting, because it will come around. It will come around. But we can love them both. In fact, the Dublin Declaration, 1,000 medical professionals in Ireland, in the United States, across the world have said abortion is not medically necessary. And let me explain that really quick, because this is one of the biggest lies that the media tells. It is one of the biggest lies. And it's the fear-mongering that makes good people think, oh, I guess I have to be pro-choice. Oh, I guess I'm only personally pro-life. I can't be really 100% because there's some cases where abortion's necessary. Okay, well, I want to be a good person. I guess that's what I have to believe. No. Let me explain. If you talk to a doctor who is not indoctrinated by leftist talking points or the fact that they were forced to perform abortions in medical school about what it actually means to care for a pregnant mother, you will discover that abortion, which is defined as the direct and intentional killing of an embryo, a fetus, a baby in the womb, is not a medical treatment. And what I mean to say then is that when you are treating a mother who has a high-risk pregnancy, who has complications, going in there to directly kill that child is not going to in any way solve her problems, help her heal, be a treatment for what she's experiencing. Now, you could perhaps do an early delivery if she's experiencing preeclampsia or she has a very severe condition that you need to deliver that baby early. But in that situation, you don't go in there with a needle or forceps to destroy that baby before birth. You give that baby a fighting chance, and that is not abortion. So do not let them lie to you. They are lying to the country. Do not let them lie to you. Abortion is not medically necessary. The direct and intentional killing of a child in the womb is not medically necessary. It never has been. It never will be. Early delivery, removing an ectopic pregnancy, that's when the baby's in the fallopian tube and they are going to die because you can't grow there, and the mother might die because that could rupture. Removing that child is not to intentionally kill that child. That's not an abortion procedure. That's a medical procedure because that baby's in a hostile environment and that mother's life is in danger, and I wish we had the medical technology to still save that baby's life. But that is not an abortion. You will always know an abortion by this. It is the direct and intentional destruction of an innocent human life. That is abortion, and that is what we are fighting. So let's be 100% pro-life. Number two, we cannot be afraid to speak out on this. Listen, they want to silence us. They want to say that we are crazy. They want to say that we're against women. They want to say that we're bigots. Yes, I'm against women, very much so, clearly. They want to say anything to make us shut up, right? But we have to speak and be bold when we speak, and be educated when we speak. There's a lot of great resources on Live Action's website. There's a lot of great resources for the pro-life that the pro-life movement has to equip us. But let's be prepared and never be afraid to speak. It is amazing to me how many people are afraid to say something because of their jobs, their careers. I mean, I was just talking to a med student recently who was going to be asked to commit an abortion. And he was like, I might lose my career, I might lose this, but he wasn't going to do it because he's pro-life, he can't do it. But this fear, because we're afraid of opportunities to our career, we're afraid of what people may think of us, we're afraid that we will make people uncomfortable. Some of these things, yes, we might end up making some people uncomfortable. Yes, there might be career challenges. Yes, there could be challenges. But also, when we speak, it is incredible the courage then we give other people to believe what we believe, to finally be open-minded again and to think independently and not just what the rest of the classroom or the school or the media or the political structure thinks. When we have the courage to speak, we give other people courage. Even if they're quiet themselves at first, we grow the courage in others. It's our responsibility, I think, when we're given the truth, to then not be afraid to speak it. The truth is a gift. And when we're not afraid to speak it, we help set other people free with that same truth. So we can't be afraid to speak. And the last thing I want to say as I think it is so important for us as conservatives, as Americans, as human beings, as whatever your political party is, actually. If you're a liberal here, welcome. I don't know if there are any, but welcome. Thank you for being here. It doesn't matter what your labels are. At the end of the day, I think what is essential for all of us is that we change profoundly the way we look at family life, motherhood and fatherhood, and children. Now, you might be listening to this and think, wow, well, I mean, sure, I guess, I'm pro-life, I'm against abortion. But it's bigger than that. It's how we think about people who have kids. It's how we think about that baby who's crying on an airplane. Hey, that could have been you. It probably was you at one point. It's how we think about marriage. By the way, guys, marriage is phenomenal. I am so happy I'm married. It is amazing. I highly recommend it. I like the guy standing for that. That's good. You're going to make good husbands one day. That's great. Marriage is awesome. It's the way we think about sexuality and sex. It's the way that we take it seriously as a responsibility as much as a gift and an amazing, beautiful thing. It's the way we look at each other. We need to step up. We need to see family life, marriage, children as beautiful things that are foundational to our society. We can't exist without children. Children are the future. We certainly can't exist without family. And we should be dedicated. You know, we all come from different families. We all have dysfunction in our families. We all have blessings in our families. Some different, very different than others. But I think part of, again, maturing and growing, part of really living the truly pro-life ethic is reading the book of our own lives, our own childhoods, is coming to understand, okay, what does it really mean to be a mother or a father? What did my mother and my father do right? What did they maybe do wrong? And what was maybe missing in my childhood, in the childhood of my siblings, if I have siblings? What can I do better? Maybe if I'm blessed with the opportunity to be a parent, or do better in just how I treat others in the future, and how has it impacted me in the way that I see the world, see other people, see God? These are the kinds of questions and the kinds of journeys that people who want to mature, that want to be noble, that want to be the people they were created to be, this is the kind of journey that we have to go through. And I think it's fundamental to truly being human, to being fully alive, and I think fundamental to preserving the beautiful values and the freedoms that we enjoy in our country. So we change our attitude, and we shift and we continue to focus the lens of our life and how we live and what we're living for. Because at the end of the day, the pro-life movement, all of this is about loving others and experiencing the love of God and the love that is all throughout our world. That's at the heart of it all. That is at the heart of our country. And that is the way I believe we're going to transform this country. We're going to restore this country. Thank you all so very much. Thank you. Thank you. And I love question and answers. It's my favorite part. I've heard myself speak before, but I haven't heard your questions before. All right. How does this work? Do I call on people, or where are the bosses? All right, you just start, please. Okay. Go for it.
Hi, my name is Crystal Alvarez. I will currently attend Cal State Chico. So I'm from El Centro,
California.
Yeah. So great. I'm originally from El Centro, California, so it's down the south. So I'm 15 minutes away from the border, and I personally know some girls that have had abortions, but they came from Mexico, so they've crossed here. And I've been in a few discussions about abortion, and I've always had other people basically attack on me that I should go be pro-choice because of girls being raped from there, or have crossed, and it should be the best reason to get it. So my question is, how can I respond to people who use rape as an exception?
Thank you. And it's Crystal, did you say?
Yes.
Thanks, Crystal. That's a really good question, and it's one that we need to be prepared to answer. Rape, sexual assault is horrific. If anyone here knows or in themselves is a survivor, it is horrific. And our response needs to immediately be one of compassion and an eagerness to support and advocacy for anybody who goes through that or who has been hurt in any way. though if a woman gets pregnant because of an act of violence, whether it's incest or rape, that is also, again, horrific that she went through that. But now we're dealing with a scenario where there is a new innocent third party involved. There is a child involved. And the penalty for that rape should be 100% on the rapist, should be 100% on the abuser. They need to be held fully accountable for their crime. But we don't even give the death penalty to rapists in this country. In fact, it's prohibited by federal law. So why do we give the death penalty, or why would we give the death penalty to that innocent third party, to that little child in the womb? And when you actually... And when you actually unpack what a rape survivor goes through, and we've done the studies that we have, the few studies we have, because here's the thing, abortion advocates say, well, because of rape, we need abortion to be legal, right? Well, rape, incest, life, health of the mother issues is less than 1%. But they try to justify all the abortions with this, right? We need abortion to be legal because of this. But you actually talk to women who have been survivors of rape. We interview them all the time at Live Action. Women who are and girls who are survivors of rape and survivors of incest. And they say that abortion, for those that have abortions, it didn't help them heal. It wasn't a path of healing for them. It was a second act of violence and trauma against them. And it didn't undo the rape. Abortion doesn't unrape the woman. It's just more trauma and more violence. And the women that have chosen life after rape, that weren't pressured, a lot of the times rape survivors are pressured. It's like, duh, have an abortion. It's like, maybe that's not the best path for her either. And those that have had and chosen life, many of them say, God brought something beautiful out of something so dark and so ugly. So I think we need to change our paradigm on this, respecting the right to live of the child, but also not seeing abortion as some sort of healing or path to freedom from trauma for the woman. Instead, it can add more trauma to her. I think that's the compassionate thing to do. Thanks for the question.
Thank you.
We have a bunch of videos at liveaction.org about this topic, by the way. Please check them out. Actual rape survivors telling their stories about this.
Hi, thank you so much for coming out and for the work you do. My name's John, but I'm asking this question on behalf of my chapter friend who's a little bit shy, but she wants to know, so many pro-choice individuals make the claim that you can't be pro-death penalty and be pro-life. What's your opinion on this?
And your name was Dawn?
Yes.
The representative for the chapter. Great question. So many people say you can't make the case that you are pro-death penalty but also pro-life. Is that the question?
Yes.
So first of all, I'm going to say I'm actually personally against the death penalty. The reason for that is because some innocent people are killed by the death penalty, and it's actually more expensive. So from a pragmatic level matter, it's actually more expensive to do the death penalty in this country because of the appeals process. And there's not a lot of great evidence that it's actually a deterrent. And I think in our civilized country, we don't need to be executing people. If you lived in a small tribe in Africa and you didn't have a good jail system, maybe it would be okay then. So that's my opinion on the matter. That being said, if you support the death penalty, you can absolutely be pro-life, okay? So you can absolutely be against abortion. Abortion intentionally takes the life of an innocent human being, right? And that's why we know it's always wrong. Well, the death penalty is designed to do what? To punish someone who is not an innocent human being. So they're fundamentally different questions. They're connected, yes, in the sense that it involves human life and life or death. And that's where I can understand the argument that if you're pro-life, you should be anti-death penalty. But I think you can absolutely be anti-abortion and pro-life and also in support of the death penalty. I don't think that those two go against each other because we're dealing with innocent human life, and we're dealing and children, and we're dealing with the state and punishing guilty human life. So that's my response to that. That being said, again, I am personally opposed to the death penalty. Thank you for your question.
Thank you so much. My name is Kirsty Lake, and I'm a student from BYU, Idaho. My husband and I have been married for a year, and this is actually a really personal topic. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. This is a really personal topic for us because we recently had a miscarriage, and we are pregnant again. And so this is something really intense.
Congratulations.
Thank you. With that being said, going to a religious private school, most people agree with us on being pro-life. So my question is, I have an opinion, I have a voice on this, but I don't know where to express that because I'm in a community that mostly agrees with me. So my question to you would be, where can I stand up? How can I make a stand where I feel like most people around me are standing with me?
Thank you. And it was Kirsty. What was the name?
Kirsty.
Kirsty. Nice. Thank you. And congratulations.
Thank you
So
very
happy for you
much.
guys. Where do you live?
Excuse me?
Where do you live? What state?
Rexburg, Idaho.
Idaho. So first of all, I would say that there are pro-life activities and communities in every single state and almost every single city in this country. And there's a lot of ways to get involved in the pro-life movement. There is 40 Days for Life, if you are a person of faith, praying for an end to abortion, keeping vigil outside of abortion clinics. There's sidewalk counseling outside of abortion clinics. Even if you have to drive to another city, it's worth it to be out there. To be out there as a sign of hope to women going in and girls going in. There's getting involved in politics. That does matter. Elections have consequences. There's getting involved in education. You might be at a Christian school, but a lot of Christians are not educated on abortion. They are not educated on abortion. So giving a presentation on what abortion is, I didn't show it today. Live Action has a phenomenal series called Abortion Procedures. It actually shows through medical animations what happens during these procedures. We have ways to share that with classmates or with young people, youth groups. So making sure your church and your school has actual education. They're not just, oh, pro-life, I'm pro-life, but they're actually educated on this because some pro-life people get abortions because they're not educated or they're not prepared with the knowledge. And then supporting women in need. In every community in America, there are women getting pregnant and they weren't expecting it, they're scared, they're feeling alone. So finding ways to support those women. A lot of the ways to do that is through the local pregnancy center. There's a pregnancy center in virtually every city in America. If there isn't one in your community, you could start one. So those are just some ideas. Finally, Live Action has an online ambassadors program with ways to get involved in the online community and sharing the truth through media. And we'd love for you to join that. So those are some ideas.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think we're done with questions. Thank you all.